Imagine cold stone walls, iron bars, the echoing footsteps of guards in the gloom. Soviet prisons were not merely places of punishment, they became engines of political terror, suffering, and chilling legends that still haunt the corridors to this day. The birth of Soviet criminal justice. After the October Revolution, the Bolsheviks inherited an old penal system but quickly transformed it. The new government believed prisons should fundamentally re-educate, punish, and isolate all who threatened the new order. Through the 1920s and 1930s, a tangled network emerged, labyrinthine, secretive, governed by the Cheka and later the NKVD. Over time, prisons became both tools of repression and social engineering, growing in scale and cruelty. The Gulag. Repression as policy. The term Gulag refers to the main administration of camps, but has come to symbolize the entire repressive prison system of the USSR. Mass arrests and forced labor started with the Civil War and exploded in Stalin's Great Purge. By the late 1930s, millions, political dissenters, intellectuals, peasants, criminals, were condemned for even minor transgressions or accusations. These sentences often led not to common prisons, but to remote labor camps where survival became a daily battle. Kresty. The cultural icon of Soviet imprisonment. Kresty prison in St. Petersburg became an infamous symbol. Originally housing political dissidents and revolutionaries before 1917, it gained new notoriety under Soviet power. During Stalin's repressions, tens of thousands were sent through these gates for counter-revolutionary activities, sabotage, or simple suspicion. With its intricate hierarchy among inmates, smatriashi, its own law, punishments befell both rule-breaking prisoners and those who dared to resist the administration. Solovki. The first Soviet penal laboratory, the Solovetsky Islands, housed the first special-purpose camp. In the 1920s, its isolated terrain was perfect for secret punishment, crammed cells, freezing work details, torture, starvation. Solovki pioneered many of the methods used in other camps. Isolation within isolation, forced labor, denial of information. Many prisoners died of exposure, exhaustion, or secret execution. Life inside Soviet prisons and labor camps. Prisoners survived on watery, moldy bread and balanda, a thin gruel. Political prisoners landed in Strafny barracks or solitary cells as punishment for even imagined infractions. Hard labor built railroads, dug mines, felled forests in deadly Siberian cold. Katorga, forced labor for enemies of the state, returned as punishment in World War II. Vorkuta, Norilsk, Magadan became notorious for snow, ice, and brutality. Within the cells, order was maintained by unofficial authorities, watchers, strict silence, or forced confessions. In the hierarchy of criminal and political inmates, discipline was sometimes harsher than official regulations. Purge and terror. The system grows ruthless. During the Stalinist purges, whole populations vanished into the prison system. Political trials, denunciations, and group arrests swelled the camps. The regime used camps for economic development. Timber, gold, construction of cities and railroads. The status of prisoners changed, sometimes benefiting from amnesties, sometimes condemned for life. Women and children in prisons. Not even youth or gender granted immunity. Children, abandoned or spies, were incarcerated on suspicion, sentenced to 5 years and shipped out to labor camps. Women faced additional terror, sexual abuse, harsh punishments, loneliness, and loss. Notorious tales and legends from inside, stories and rumors grew. The infamous, haunted cellars of Kresty, where prisoners reported hearing screams and seeing ghostly apparitions of executed inmates on Black Mondays, the weekly execution days. At Solovki. The story spread that the souls of frozen workers rose as mist along the White Sea, crying for their families left behind. The legend of the Grey Lady at Kresty. Prison in Latvia, whose spirit roams the corridor, mourning a lost love. Brutal methods and disciplined disobedience led to harsh punishment. Solitary confinement in icy, dark cells, prolonged shackling, beatings, and even execution for camp sabotage. The dread of being sent to the karzer, a tiny cell with no light or blanket, was one of the worst fears for prisoners. Those accused of organizing resistance were dealt with swiftly, often erased from records forever. Political trials and cover-ups. Soviet prisons suppressed evidence of torture, forced confessions, and wrongful executions. Families searched for decades to discover the fate of loved ones. The specter of prison haunted Soviet life, not just for those inside, but for everyone who might one day fall afoul of the shifting political winds. Survivor stories and memoirs. Many survivors recounted chilling memories. Endless work lines, once familiar faces growing gaunt, bitter cold that feels like knives on skin, and a regime of control that reached into every aspect of existence. Memoirists like Alexander Solzhenitsyn revealed the inner workings of camps, giving the world a look at the cruelty and resilience of spirit under absolute oppression. The Gothic atmosphere and present-day museums. The architectural design of Soviet prisons, high walls, labyrinthine passageways, reinforced doors, hints at their Gothic terror. Today, former prisons like Kresty and Perm 36 are museums, drawing visitors to walk the haunted corridors, view grim artifacts, and contemplate the tragedies and mysteries that still linger. Occult, rituals and paranormal accounts. Some reports even allege paranormal rituals conducted by prisoners desperate for hope or vengeance. Strange drawings found in cells. Tales of shadows moving when no one was present. Modern ghost hunters still report supernatural phenomena in abandoned prison complexes. Some say the history is not finished. The voices of the past echo in every wall. The legacy of Soviet prisons. Decades after the collapse of the USSR, the legacy of these prisons looms large in Russian memory and global imagination. Historians, artists, authors, and descendants of prisoners continue to grapple with unanswered questions, hidden archives, and the enduring power of these haunted spaces.